Nick. In the Infinite Game, your most recent book, you described the finite game and the infinite game. So, from my perspective of artificial intelligence and game theory in general, I'm a huge fan of finite games. From the broad philosophical sense, is something that in the robotics, artificial intelligence space, we know how to deal with. And then you describe the infinite game, which has no exact static rules, has no well-defined static objective, has the players are known, unknown, they change, there's a dynamic element. So this is something that applies to business, politics, life itself. So can you try to articulate the objective function here of the infinite game, or in the cliche broad philosophical sense, what is the meaning of life?
Go for the start with the softballs.
Yep. Easy question first.
So James Carse was the philosopher who originally articulated this concept of finite and infinite games. And when I learned about it, it really challenged my view of how the world works, right? Because I think we all think about winning and being the best and being number one. But if you think about it, only in a finite game can that exist. A game that has fixed rules, agreed upon objectives, and known players, like football or baseball. There's always a beginning, middle, and end. And if there's a winner, there has to be a loser. Infinite games, as Carse describes them, as you said, have known and unknown players, which means anyone can join. It has changeable rules, which means you can play however you want. And the objective is to perpetuate the game, to stay in the game as long as possible. In other words, there's no such thing as being number one or winning in a game that has no finish line. And what I learned is that when we try to win in a game that has no finish line, we try and be the best in a game that has no agreed upon objectives or agreed upon metrics or timeframes. There's a few consistent and predictable outcomes: the decline of trust, the decline of cooperation, the decline of innovation. And I find this fascinating because so many of the ways that we run most organizations is with a finite mindset.
So trying to reduce the beautiful, complex thing that is life, or what politics or business, into something very narrow. And in that process, the reductionist process, you lose something fundamental that makes the whole thing work in the long term. So returning, I'm not going to let you off the hook easy. What is the meaning of life? So what is the objective function that is worthwhile to pursue?
Well, if you think about our tombstones, right? They have the date we were born and the date we died. But really, it's what we do with the gap in between. There's a poem called The Dash. It's the dash that matters. It's what we do between the time we're born and the time we die that gives our life meaning. And if we live our lives with a finite mindset, which means to accumulate more power or money than anybody else, to outdo everyone else, to be number one, to be the best, we don't take any of it with us. We just die. The people who get remembered, the way we want to be remembered is what kind of people we were, right? Devoted mother, loving father, what kind of person we were to other people. Jack Welch just died recently, and the Washington Post, when it wrote the headline for his obit, it wrote, "He pleased Wall Street and distressed employees." And that's his legacy. A finite player who is obsessed with winning,
yes,
who leaves behind a legacy of short-term gains for a few and distress for many. That's his legacy. And every single one of us gets the choice of the kind of legacy we want to have. Do we want to be remembered for our contributions or our detractions? To live with a finite mindset, to live a career with a finite mindset, to be number one, be the best, be the most famous, you live a life like Jack Welch, to live a life of service, to see those around us rise, to contribute to our communities, to our organizations, to leave them in better shape than we found them. That's the kind of legacy most of us would like to have.
So day to day, when you think about what is the fundamental goals, dreams, motivations of an infinite game, of seeing your life, your career as an infinite game, what does that look like? I mean, I guess I'm sort of trying to stick on this personal ego, personal drive, the thing that the fire, the reason we want to wake up in the morning, and the reason we can't go to bed because we're so excited.
Yeah.
What is that?
So for me, it's about having a just cause. It's about a vision that's bigger than me, that my work gets to contribute to something larger than myself. That's what drives me every day. I wake up every morning with a vision of a world that does not yet exist, a world in which the vast majority of people wake up every single morning inspired, feel safe at work, and return home fulfilled at the end of the day. It is not the world we live in. And so that we still have work to do is the thing that drives me. I know what my underlying values are. I wake up to inspire people to do the things that inspire them. And these are my go-tos, my touch points. That inspire me to keep working. I think of a career like an iceberg. If you have a vision for something, you're the only one who can see the iceberg underneath the ocean. But if you start working at it, a little bit shows up. And now a few other people can see what you imagine and be like, oh, right, yeah, no, I want to help build that as well. And if you have a lot of success, then you have a lot of iceberg. And people can see this huge iceberg and they say, you've accomplished so much. But what I see is all the work still yet to be done. Yet I still see the huge iceberg underneath the ocean.
And so the growth, you talk about momentum. So the incremental revealing of the iceberg is what drives you.
Well, it necessarily is incremental. What drives me is the realization, or is realizing the iceberg, bringing more of the iceberg from the unknown to the known, bringing more of the vision from the imagination to reality.